Good morning, leaders. Happy Monday. We're heading into week 9 this week, and I get the distinct pleasure of going through your final drafts of your e-portfolios. I'll begin grading those on Thursday. There's a handful of you, probably 6 to 8 in all my courses, my leadership courses that have not completed them. Remember that the late window is open. This is a big assignment that is 20% of your course grade. This e-portfolio is a practical and important task because it is something that is going to help you navigate and complete something that is sort of a professional how-to, right? This is something that is useful and that you can complete, keep it, and then you can modify it and revise it and actually use it to help you, like I said, get into the school of your choice. You want to go to FSU and School of Business. Maybe you feel like it's competitive. You can include this in your application. You're applying for a new job. You can include the link in your application. You're applying to grad school one day. You can include this in your application. You're creating a new business. You can include this in your small business loan application, right? So all of these kinds of things are important, and I want to see you guys really digging into it and figuring it out. I included so many resources. And most of you, the first drafts really looked good. So I'm excited to see the remaining final drafts, and hopefully everybody followed instructions super well as I indicated, and you corrected any feedback that I gave you from the first draft. So I'm excited. Let's talk now about how the semester is progressing. We are getting close to the end. The semester officially ends on July 23rd, and today is the 30th. Tomorrow is the 1st of July. So as you know, this online course move fast, and we are a 2000 level course. I told you that you're going to have to focus. You're going to have to use the entire week. You're going to have to level up. This is a leadership course. Some of you I have seen applying the leadership skills and really maximizing and self-actualizing. Some of you, because it's an online class and you have trouble being self-motivated, this is maybe not the way for you to take a course, right? Be thinking about what works for you, your personality, and what you need out of education. In the meantime, in these last few weeks, when we're getting close to final exam, we're going to start talking about it next week. You really need to dedicate in this last little bit, right? We need to really focus and get ourselves motivated. So I encourage you right now to sit down with yourself, reflect. Remember, that's the first step, is really look hard at yourself, what you're doing, more importantly, what you're not doing, and make an action plan. Set a SMART goal, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, relative, and also time bound, and make sure that you, set those goals and that they're realistic. I would set short-term ones, even if it's just for today, for this week, for the next 3 days. I would set another short-term one for the end of the semester, and I would start setting long-term goals for the end of the summer, for the fall, right? Be thinking about how you can get where you need to go. It doesn't happen by accident. You can't just wish it there. Oh, I want to get my degree. Well, guys, 60% of people that enroll in college don't finish. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? It is by being disciplined, knowing how we get there. It's not about how smart you are. What do we know about the science of growth mindset now? Successful people are successful, not because of how smart they are, but because of their growth mindset, meaning, do they really believe they can do it? And are they giving all of the effort to find the resources they need to make that happen and to make sure that they are giving it everything they've got, right? So these things really matter, and I hope that you're figuring them out and making choices that reflect your best interest. All right, so let's talk about this week. Okay, so let's go all the way back to the beginning of the course. Remember, our definition for leadership in this course is leaders. They are effective agents for positive change, right? Leaders are effective agents for positive change. It's not enough just to be have good intentions. A lot of you are enrolled in school and you have good intentions, but you've got to really look hard at what are you doing and not doing? What are you doing and not doing? So let's talk about this week. This week, week 9, is about one of the most important aspects of leadership. That's why it's the last content area we cover in this course, and it is ethics. Another word for ethics are principles, values, or a set of guidelines that you use to guide your life in sort of a moral direction, right? It's the difference between right and wrong. Now, think about it for a second. Aren't ethics crucial to being an effective agent for a positive change, for being a good leader? Yeah, because otherwise you lean into dark leadership, right? You're leaning into the shadow of leadership and you're leaning into destructive leadership. So what we want to do is we want to be able to be an ethical leader. And what does that mean? That means that if I'm an ethical leader, then by default, If I'm running my organization with ethics and morals and doing what's right, then I'm going to build trust, right, within the culture of the company, and I'm going to build positivity, and I'm also going to build long-term success. Why? Think about this for a second. If I'm an ethical leader, then people want to stay with me because they trust me, because they know where we are going is going not to just be good for me, but it's going to be good for them, right? So this matters. And why does that happen? Why do people feel that they're taken care of with ethical leaders? It's because, think about it, ethical leaders feel and make people feel like they have integrity. They're going to do the right thing even when no one's looking. Also, ethical leadership makes their subordinates or the people that work with them, their team members, feel safe, right? Of course they do, because they trust the person that they're working with to do the right thing even when no one is looking. Those ethical leaders model what it is to be an ethical leader. So they're not just saying it, they're being about it. They build trust, of course. Transparency. They are very transparent with what is going on as best as they can. They are empathetic, meaning they're not quick to judge or to make assumptions. If you come in late 2 days in a row, they're not going to yell at you in front of the whole sort of office staff. They're going to pull you to the side and talk to you and not assume the worst, that you're just being disrespectful or you don't care. They're going to ask you, hey, I noticed you've been late a couple of times this week and that's not like you. Is everything okay? Right? There's a difference between being invested in someone and just treating them like they're a cog in a wheel. And if you are an ethical leader, then you really are invested in the people that you work for, because we understand that, as we've discussed in this class, that leadership is a human endeavor, right? Okay, so let's talk about moving forward. We're also going to talk about, you'll see in the content, 7 practices of ethical leaders. Make sure you have that in your notes. You're also going to see there are some interesting things that have happened. And one of the examples I give you when we talk about ethical leadership is something for you to think about. So CEO historic pay scales, right? So since about the late 1960s, late 1970s, we've seen something interesting happen with the workforce, right? Some things changed, some regulations changed, some laws changed, leadership in the United States changed. And what we saw were worker wages mostly staying low after that, even while economic productivity in those companies were growing exponentially. Okay, so worker wages stayed low, even though the company's making lots of money. What we did see rise were CEO and executive pay, right? So today, we're looking at executive pay. So we're talking the CEOs, the people in the E-suites, right? Compared to their typical workers, they're 196 times the pay. Okay, 196 times the pay. So I want you to think about that. You're a regular typical worker, meaning you're a teacher. Okay. Do you think that in your private school that the principal should make 196 times what you make? If you're a construction worker, do you think the guy at the top should make, or the girl at the top should make 196 times? Now, I'm not arguing that they shouldn't make more. They have more responsibility. They have more consequences, right? They have all of that. They're responsible to their board members and making a profit and all of that. But let's talk about, when we talk about ethics, what is fair? So I want you to think about that. I want you to add actual numbers to that and sort of put it in your head. Now, this is only one example. There are lots and lots of examples, not necessarily monetarily when we talk about ethics. But I do want you to be thinking about this as you go through and take great notes on the content that's there and complete the 2 assignments that are there. Now, as we enter into the end, I want to remind you, every assignment should be done with the best of your ability no matter what, but particularly important at the end of the semester when all of these grades really matter, right? So you have a discussion board this week that is pretty lengthy. Okay, so I want to warn you, make sure you're not leaving this for Friday night when your initial response is due, because you're going to have to talk to someone who is close to you and that you trust, that they'll give you honest answers to complete an interview about yourself. Okay, so I encourage you to get this done today, tomorrow, the next day, so that you can then have time to put together the reflections. All right. And then you have a quiz that is reviewing the last 2 weeks of coursework. You should have really great notes. If not, you're going to have to go back and make sure you have them, because it is covering making decisions, conflicts and obstacles, and ethics. Okay. I want to encourage each of you to come and see me during my office hours if you need me. I want to encourage you to lean into the best that you can do. And I want you to step into your greatness, because when you guys do, you're going to feel this confidence. Okay, and it's going to feel good and it's going to take you where you need to be. But every minute that you make a choice that doesn't align with what you say you want to do, you're not going to feel good, right? It's going to feel fine, but it's not going to feel good. And until you start making choices, consistent choices that align with what it is that you want, you're not going to feel like you're operating at your best because you're not building that self-confidence and that self-esteem that says, I know what I want and what I deserve, and I'm willing to work for it. So I encourage each of you to dig into that, ground yourself in your own potential and make it happen. I'm here to help.